Okay, so I'm working on how to mount this dashboard to this deck beam. And so on each end here, when I had to cut that blocking, when I moved this forward, I cut it at an angle, and this angle is about 12 degrees. That's what I'm going for here, roughly. And so I have these wedges. I'll show you how this will work. And so my plan is to put a wedge, which is cut the right angle, these angles. I'm gonna put one here, here just off center a little bit because my gauges are gonna be here, so I had to make sure it was in between the gauges, because what I'm gonna do is have a wedge and then drive a screw or two from the back into this, because I don't want any screw holes. I don't want to screw from the front. And so, let's see. So this one. Get these marked, I thought. So this one goes here, so, and you can see they'll stick up a little bit. So what I'm gonna do is, with this clamped in place, I'll put these wedges in place, and then I'll drill the holes for the screws with them in place. That way now I'll know how much to cut off. I think one of these sticks up a little more, so you can kind of see like this. Oop. I don't know if you can see that. You may not be able to see that. Let me see here. This one you can see how it's sticking up. Well, I want to drive the screws, and that way I'll know how to glue, where to glue it. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue these wedges to the back of this board, and but then I'll just screw the dash. My plan is to make this dash board removable, and so I'll have one there, and then there's this one here. You can see how that sticks up a little bit. Of course, that other one fell off, but I have these in position, screw them in, and then I'll know where to glue them. And then once it's in place, I'll obviously cut those off. Should be pretty good. So that is my plan. And then I'm also going to, this camera angle here, I can't see what I'm showing. On each end, then what I'm planning on doing is driving a long screw, maybe one or two from the back, because there's blocking here all the way in. So at least on each end there'll be some kind of screw holding it. So it'll be held on each end, and then roughly a third, and roughly in the center, a little off center here. And I've got two here on either side of the steering helm, because I wanted extra support there, because there's a pretty big hole that's going to get cut out of this dash. And and I still haven't trimmed the bottom, because it'll, if you remember, it'll curve up to the outside edges, and this width here in the middle is going to be 6 5/8 or something like that. Now the top, I haven't totally trimmed. I've got it rough trimmed. As you get closer to this side, I still need to trim that down, but I plan on fairing it, because if you notice, it's slightly above flush, roughly in these areas, but then as an angle, because there's an angle here, this sticks up. Well, I will fair that off with this screwed in place. Then I'll fair that off with my hand belt sander, because I've got to fair before I put the decking plywood on. I still need to fair these battens anyway, and I haven't glued these support pieces yet. So all that's to come. So I have the wedges with one screw in each one in place. You can see that one there, there's that one there, and then center. And then what I did, there's the one that's roughly in the center. And what I did is I took my angle meter, for lack of a better term, and made sure that they were all vertical, absolute vertical there, because the boat is level side to side. And then I've got the one down there. I don't have these, how I'm gonna put a screw in the back somehow on the side or that side. I'm still thinking about how I'm going to do that. But what I'm gonna do next is fair off the top of this dash piece now, because now it's in place where it's gonna go, as far as that way. So now I can fair that off so it's level, and then also so it's in line with the deck beam and stuff, because you can see it's sticking up a little bit there. So progress. One thing I got to remember to do, though, I almost forgot, is I was going to glue these wedges on. Obviously I'll whack those off or fair them off. If you remember, I'm going to glue those on the back of this, but I don't want to do that yet because I need to plane off this front surface of this beam. It's got some marks from when it was rough planed or skip planed from the lumber yard. So I'm going to do that, and over there you can see just a little from here, there's a little bit of a neck that kind of not real happy about. See it there? So I'm hoping planing it off will kind of hide that. Now I am going to be it's going to curve up a little bit, so it'll be probably right on the edge, but oh well, once I get it planed off, hopefully it'll hide it mostly. So there we are. So I've got my dash piece cut to shape, at least as far as I know. Now this part here where the steering wheel is going to be, I plan on making this more just rounded, not flat like that in the bottom, because the steering wheel, if I hold on, it's basically 12 inches, maybe 12 and 9/16 from that edge. That'd be the center of it, and so I want the center of this kind of arc part to be there, you know, so it'll look more like that. I mean, that's my rough template, but and so this dimension here, though, I've actually got it. I'm gonna leave it. It's like at 7 1/4, a hair under that. I wasn't thinking I was going to have it that tall, but the reason I'm doing that is, and I'll show this once it's back in the boat, but I didn't want the bottom of this part to be too narrow on both sides, but then I wanted the bottom of the dash to have more of a curved feel to it. Well, because the top's got such an arc to it, it's kind of hard to do both. So, and when you look at this, you can barely see that. I put my straight edge on it. Do that. There you go. You can see I've got it lined up with the bottom of both sides, but you can see here in the center how it goes down and back up. Now, ideally what I would have is this just be a nice curve, but it's just not very wide there. So essentially the way it is it's straight from here to the center, and then from the center it's basically straight all the way up except for that dip. So I'm fine with that in the boat. I mean, you don't notice, you can't tell that those are straight basically. So but I'm about to plane this off, because one, it's a little bit rough, but two, I talked about this, there's a little bit of a nick here, or it's actually where just peeled off a little bit, so that should plane out. And and then once I do that, I'll show what this looks like back in the boat. So planing it off worked well. Just one pass through my planer. I didn't have it set very deep, but that was enough to get rid of the little peel nick that was over there. And so now I've got it back in. And again, I still need to finish this section, but I picked this piece. You can see the grain, how it kind of in general curves like this, and there was this line here. Well, that's right where my steering wheel is going to go. So I did that on purpose, so it should look nice. And so I need to start working on the steering wheel and drilling the hole for the steering helm here. And I just don't have a lot of confidence I'm going to get that drilled, because it's just not a straight hole. You can see there's this section here that sticks out. So I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. Because the hole, if you remember, where the dash is going to be like along this plane here. So this sticks out so you can fill the steering fluid. And so yeah, I'm going to have to drill that somehow and get it centered right. And so I'm going to have to work slowly at that. My mounting, it's going to be mounted in between these two pieces of lumber. And I've already got, if you remember, that deck beam is already cut out. So now I have to cut the dash. Pretty big hole for that steering helm, so I'm going to have to be careful. Okay, so here's what's going on. I've got this temporary part I had that was holding the steering helm, and I've got it mounted in there where, basically height-wise, up and down where the steering helm needs to go. Got my dash back in, and because what I'm trying to do is figure out where to drill the hole, and so I need to find the mark. So what I'm going to do, or my plan is, this is the hole saw that I used actually to drill this. My plan is to put it up in here and make sure that it's square basically, and try to make a little mark on the back of the dash. And then that'll show me where to drill the center part for the helm. Of course, that hole saw is not big enough. And so I have this bigger hole saw, but it's not quite big enough. But like I mentioned, that helm is not perfectly round. I mean, it's round, but then there are other parts of it that make it not round. So what I'm going to do is I'll drill the dash with this, and then I'm going to have to work it by hand. I might use my jigsaw carefully, or my rasp, or I might use my Dremel tool, or all the above, because I'm going to work my way closely or slowly to getting that where I need it. But then I might just take a piece of scrap and drill a hole like this, and then see what it's going to take to get it to fit in the helm piece in there. So we'll see how this is going to work.